Let's move on to our top story now. The clock is ticking for Scottish First Minister Humza Yousaf as he faces a no-confidence vote. And the one person who can save his skin is his former rival, Ash Regan.
The former Scottish Nationalist MSP who defected to Alex Salmond's breakaway Alba party is likely to have the deciding vote. The question is, though, which way will she swing? Well,
joining us in the studio is former Downing Street Director of Communications, Jonathan Haslam. And in Westminster is the Spectator's diary reporter, Lucy Dunn. Lucy, let's start with you. We understand today that Humza Yousaf is going to come out fighting. He's not going to go willingly.
Yeah, so there's been speculation that Humza Yousaf might be considering stepping down as First Minister, but sources very close to the First Minister are saying this is not actually going to be the case. They're not expecting any kind of resignation statement today, and we've seen Stephen Flynn on the radio this morning talking about Humza Yousaf coming out fighting, staying strong, and I think we probably will see him continue in the role until this vote of no confidence, which is to take place next week. However, as John Boothman was saying earlier on this programme, there's a real question as to how long Humza can hang on after that, even if he survives this vote. What will happen after the general election, where the SNP's Westminster group are predicted to lose more than half of their Westminster seats? So it's been a difficult couple of days for Humza Yousaf. He's not only lost the support of the Greens after a very difficult and quite fiery confrontation yesterday when Humza Yousaf said that he was going to end the Bute House Agreement, but he's also got his own future and the future of his party to think about.
Well, Jonathan, the Greens have accused him of selling out over net zero. So this was a very uneasy coalition, and obviously he decided to jump before he was pushed. He actually thought he'd handled this really well. He said, oh, look, this is leadership. And of course, now, fast forward a few hours, there's a vote of no confidence. Humza Yousaf, do you think his time, I mean, when you look at the maths, 63 versus 64, having to rely on Ash Regan, who he essentially belittled and said it wasn't a great loss to the party, when she left. I think he comes to eat those words, doesn't he?
Well, he could do, yes. I mean, when you talk about leadership, he seems to be leading them to the edge of a cliff. And every chance there's no parachute for them either. He's got a problem. He's had a problem for a long time. Taking over from Nicola Sturgeon, whatever one thinks about her abilities, is not an easy thing to do. And he inherited a party which had got a coalition, so the Bute House Agreement was there. And a lot of MSPs have felt uncomfortable about that for a long time. And they've found themselves, as SNP, stuck into a corner with people with obligations and recognition that they want to save the environment and the planet, which is quite right, but unrealistically so, with a 1.5 billion hole still in the budget for the Scottish Party. So he's got a huge number of problems. I don't think he's a particularly acute politician. He's not particularly good at communicating. And the three-way split with the leadership vote didn't help him. And now we see, actually, the de facto leader of the SNP is Ash Regan, because she will call the shots. So strong leadership, but hey, Ash, you know, what did you get from this guy?
Well,
I got this, that and the other.
Exactly. Lucy Dunn, I mean, it's Ash Regan who becomes the kingmaker or the executioner here, really, isn't it? What does she call for? What are her terms?
So that's the thing. So Ash Regan is going to present Humza Yousaf with this letter of demands. And the thought is, from the Alba party side, that Humza Yousaf is in a situation where he absolutely has to accept these demands to save his own skin. Now, what we've heard so far are that she's going to be looking at things to do with women's rights. She's been very big on the gender critical stance, opposed to the Scottish Greens on the transgender issue. She is wanting to push much clearer, more defined independent strategy as well. No independence thermometers on the cards this time, though. And she's also looking, it's rumoured, to be talking about Grangemouth and refineries in Scotland. Again, something that the Scottish Greens were not particularly keen to talk about, given their stance on environmental issues, but something that Scottish businesses, Scottish industries are very keen to get some clarity on in terms of oil and gas in the country. Now, Humza Yousaf, if he does cave to Ash Regan's demands, will be opening himself up to criticism from the Scottish Greens and people even on the left of his own party that will say he's moving rightwards. at this time, he doesn't have much of a choice if he wants to remain as First Minister himself. So I think the question is, what's he going to put first? Is he going to put his leadership first? Because if he were to step aside, the SNP again would be opening themselves up to criticism as a party after being pretty sceptical of the number of Conservative Party leaders that we've seen unelected in the last couple of years. If this were to happen with the Scottish National Party, I think they'd have a tough time defending that.
Jonathan, let's move on if we can. Rishi Sunak has a spring in his step. He's been out running. The Safety of Rwanda bill has gone through. It's a triumph as far as he is concerned. Chris Philp then goes on BBC's Question Time and doesn't seem to know the details. Shall we just look at what happened?
No, I think there's an exclusion on people from Rwanda being sent to Rwanda.
They're not from Rwanda, they're from Congo.
They're from Congo.
And they're supposedly
okay.
warring these people from Rwanda. Are they then going to be sent to Rwanda if they came here on a crossing?
From
Congo? Yeah.
Would people be sent from... Well, I mean, Rwanda is a different country of Congo, isn't it? It's a different country.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Definitely. Are you saying if they come from a war zone in Congo, would they then be sent to Rwanda?
So, you former comms director for John Major.
Yeah.
From a comms perspective, marks out of 10?
Minus 10, I would have thought. I mean,
Back to school, Chris.
He clearly is not a geographer. And it reminds you of some of those other excruciating interviews. I remember Emily Thornberry being asked the name of the French foreign minister she was going to be meeting in 2 days and having a senior moment, as certainly somebody at my age can recognise only too well. No, it's a problem. You just have to say, yeah, look, brain freeze, got it wrong, it happens. You know, that's it. Move on. I've got the policy. He's in out running. His trousers still aren't long enough. But, you know, there are going to be many, many twists and turns, David, before we see people on planes to Rwanda. But he's helped. I mean, if you have President Macron criticising you, probably you think you're getting 1 or 2 things right.
Yeah, and also, Lucy, we've got the story on the front of some of the papers today that Ireland fears migrants are crossing the border because of the threat of the Rwanda policy. I mean, the Tories could say then, well, that's working then, isn't it? It's a deterrent.
So, yeah, I think we've had a number of mixed views about the Rwanda bill, particularly as it's been passed through Parliament this week. And we've seen even David Cameron, who is the Foreign Secretary, when he was quizzed by ITV, he was a little hesitant himself about exactly what he would have pursued had he been Prime Minister. And been looking at this immigration problem, the crisis that we're seeing just now. So there obviously is a concern about how much of a deterrent this will pose. There's still small boat crossings happening. There's still a number of migrants coming across. And I think for Rishi Sunak, the big question is how many planes and how many migrants on those planes will he be able to get to Rwanda before the general election to prove that his plan is actually practically working?
OK, Lucy Dunn from The Spectator, former Director of Communications to No.10, Jonathan Haslam. Always wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for coming on.
It's been great to be with you. Thank you.